2,500 years ago, the queen of a small Indian kingdom retired to her quarters to rest, and as she slept she had a dream that 4 angels carried her high into the white mountain peaks and clothed her in flowers. A white bull elephant bearing a white lotus in its trunk approached Queen Maya and walked around her 3 times. The elephant struck her on the right side with its trunk and vanished into her. Sages were asked to interpret the dream Queen Maya had, and they predicted she would give birth to a son destined to become a great ruler or a holy man. Within 10 months, as the tree lowered a branch to support her, a baby boy was emerging from her side. A child was born who would eventually change the world with his teachings, the Buddha.
When I was a child, I was delicately brought up most delicately. A white sunshade was held over me day and night to protect me from cold, heat, dust, dirt, and dew. My father gave me 3 lotus ponds, one where red lotuses bloomed, one where white lotuses bloomed, and one where blue lotuses bloomed.
King wanted his son to follow in his footsteps and not only become emperor of India but conquer the world. To do this, he created an artificial environment surrounding him with indulgences to coddle him from the pain and suffering of the world. He wandered into the world in search for understanding. He encountered an old man, an ill man, and a corpse, and then an ascetic who convinced Siddhartha that suffering lay at the end of all existence. The culmination of his search came while meditating beneath a tree, where he finally understood how to be free from suffering and ultimately to achieve salvation. Following this epiphany, Siddhartha became the Enlightened One. The Buddha spent the remainder of his life journeying about India, teaching others what he had come to understand. Buddha added from his own experience the understanding of suffering. He showed that there are 2 kinds of pain: the pain of the gain, or understanding what the pain is for and thereby getting past it, or the pain that lingers from attempting to just make the problem go away while ignoring the cause. The Buddha had a profound influence on religion for the rest of his life.
It may be that after I am gone that some of you will think, now we have no teacher, but that is not how you should see it. Let the Dharma and the discipline that I have taught you be your teacher. All individual things pass away. Strive on untiringly.
Although the teachings of Buddha spread throughout Asia, it remained virtually unknown in the West until modern times. Western scholars, the work of philosophers, writers, and artists, and the arrival of Asian immigrants have brought various forms of Buddhism with them. It was over a century ago when people from France, the Netherlands, Great Britain, and other European countries began to travel into the Far East. Many of them returned with Eastern ideas, and so Europeans began to hear about Buddhism. The Buddhist teachings came to be known by the European scholars, and over time the texts were translated into English, French, and German. Soon Buddhist organizations were founded in the major cities of Europe. One of these organizations was called the Society of London, which was established in 1924. Meditation sessions, lectures, and circulation of Buddhist literature were being conducted at this organization. Being the oldest and largest Buddhist organization in Europe, it helped the growth of interest in Buddhism in the West. Some of the members of the Society of London and other establishments like this became monks. They inspired and strengthened the Buddhist circles in Europe and eventually established many new Buddhist centers. Today, the major Buddhist traditions of Asia, such as Theravada, Pure Land, and Zen, have sizable numbers of followers in European countries. It wasn't until the 19th century when scholars in America became acquainted with Buddhist ideas. Some universities throughout the country had departments of Oriental studies where scholars studied Buddhist texts. In the second half of the 19th century, Chinese immigrants settled in Hawaii and California, bringing with them Buddhist traditions, specifically Mahayana Buddhist practices, and building many temples there. Japanese Buddhist immigrants arrived, also bringing Mahayana Buddhism, but of different kinds. By the end of the 19th century, two Buddhist spokesmen, Dharmapala of Sri Lanka and Soyen Shaku from Japan, attended the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago. The speeches that the Buddhists made at the meeting impressed the audience and helped establish a foothold for their Theravada and Zen Buddhism traditions in America. The return home of servicemen from East Asia after the Second World War and Korean War also spread Buddhism in America. Tibetan refugees arriving after 1959 and growing academic interest during the post-war period also contributed to the Buddhist growth in America. Today, Buddhism has spread across Australia, New Zealand, Europe, North America, and South America, which continues to attract the interest of Westerners in all walks of life. Although the religion is still growing, it is evident that the newly conformed Buddhists have a profound gratitude to the teachings and spiritual transmission of Buddha.